Hello, and welcome to Zap the Gender Pay Gap, the podcast series where we expose the elephant in the room. The elephant's name, the gender pay gap. I am coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee, located on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. Nestled in the southwest corner of the state, Memphis is home to the blues, barbecue, and so much more. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker.
Thank you so very much for joining me for this episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Look for me on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and other platforms where you find your favorite podcast. I would love to be one. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. I'd greatly appreciate it. My family and I just welcomed a new addition to our family. My nephew and his wife have a beautiful baby boy. The development of a child inside its mother's womb is a great mystery. And to see him with our own eyes, well, it's nothing short of a miracle. He's growing like wildfire and is the spitting image of both of his parents. You can't even imagine the delight my sister and her husband feel in their hearts for their new grandson. And the extra blessing for our family, it's this. He is named in honor of our dad who passed away 4 years ago. When friends and family and even strangers learned of the impending birth, what do you think was the first question they asked? When are you due? And the next, what is it? A boy or a girl? If you are a mom, I'm sure you were asked that question over and over and over again. In our case, my nephew and his wife wanted it to be a surprise. They decided against a big reveal party to announce the baby's gender or do anything of that sort. You've heard of gender reveal parties, haven't you? Coined in 2008 by a blogger and mom, it seems they're quite the thing to do nowadays. Most have gone really well, but some gender reveal parties have gone horribly wrong. Those are the ones that usually make the news. Now, I launched this podcast and continue bringing it to you for three reasons. One, to expose this elephant in the room I've named the gender pay gap. My goal, to shine a spotlight on this thing that can eat away at a woman's pay, affecting her overall financial well-being. This elephant has been wearing a mask, and I am determined to reveal what it has been trying to conceal. Two, I will disclose previously unknown information and pertinent facts about the impact this elephant is making, because if we let it stay, it just may eat us out of house and home. And then reason number three is to dispose of this elephant as well as its effects by helping women find and fix their gender pay gap, and to do so for every woman who will listen and have the courage to act. Since one of my reasons for launching Zap the Gender Pay Gap is to expose this elephant in the room, today I will reveal some new news to you. Now, those who know me know I am a word buff, so I just had to take a look at how some folks define the word reveal. Check this one out. To make known through divine inspiration. Another, to make something hidden or kept secret, public, or generally known, to open it up to view. I don't claim divine inspiration, but I will open up to view the results of the most recent information about the gender pay gap. I don't take in information from all sources, but I do seek reputable sources. One such source is the recent gender pay gap report from PayScale. Now, some big reveals have gone very wrong, but I promise no theatrics here. As Sergeant Friday from Dragnet says, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. And so the facts supported by data are what I will share with you. First, let's talk about my source. PayScale's annual gender pay gap report reveals how much women are paid compared to men. It analyzes both the uncontrolled and controlled pay gaps in a number of ways, including by parent status, remote work status, education, age, race, occupation, location, as well as the top jobs where the gender pay gap is widest. And that's the case even when all pay factors are controlled. Now, let's look at another definition. According to PayScale, the gender pay gap is the difference in pay between men and women at scale or overall in total. Gender pay gap research measures how society values the work of women compared to the work of men by analyzing reasons for the gap. Let's take a deeper dive. These are the facts. One, the gap between what women and men are paid persists year over year, indicating that the reasons for the gender pay gap are systemic. Since PayScale started tracking the gender pay gap, the difference between the earnings of women and men has shrunk, but only by an infinitesimal amount each year. In other words, a very, very minute or small amount. In 2023, the gender pay gap didn't shrink at all. Number two, the uncontrolled gender pay gap tells us that the distribution of high earning, prestigious jobs in society favors men, while the presence of the controlled gender pay gap tells us that at least some women are still being paid less than men when doing the same jobs. Number three, the gender pay gap persists even when men and women have the same education. Number four, it is wider for women who are parents and for women who work from home. Number five, the gender pay gap also widens as women age and progress in their careers. Number six, it is wider for women in certain occupations and industries, as well as some states and metro areas. Now, number seven is a little bit of good news. Even with all of the bad news, there's one bright spot. The gender pay gap has narrowed for women of color. Not to get too deep in the weeds, but I do find this meaningful. Other commentary from the report reveals that PayScale looks at the gender pay gap in two ways: uncontrolled and controlled. They explain the difference between the two this way. The uncontrolled gender pay gap is how women are paid compared to men holistically or overall, which can be understood as a measure of how society values women's contributions in the workplace compared to men's. The uncontrolled gender pay gap is also called the opportunity gap because it represents the unequal or inequitable distribution of employment and opportunities between men and women. By contrast, the controlled gap measures equal pay for equal work, meaning how women are paid compared to men in the same jobs or similar jobs with similar qualifications. The report goes on to state that the uncontrolled gender pay gap is not less meaningful than the uncontrolled gender pay gap. Both are important. It reveals the overall economic power disparity between men and women in society and how wealth and power are gendered. Even if the controlled gender pay gap disappeared altogether, meaning men and women with the same job title and qualifications were paid equally, the uncontrolled gap would demonstrate that higher paying positions are still disproportionately accessible to men compared to women. When the data are controlled for job title and compensable factors, the gender pay gap narrows. It's not closed, but it narrows. And what that means is that at least some women are still receiving unequal pay for the same or similar work. Now, this is best explained by gender bias, which is defined as favoritism toward or prejudice against a particular gender. Now, this sounds like a whole lot of bad news with just a drop of good news on top. I'm not done. I have so much more to share, but for now, I must stop. I'm bringing today's big reveal to a screeching halt, but part two is coming just around the bend. As you can hear from what I've shared thus far, the gender pay gap is real. Something must be done. Something can be done. According to PayScale, employers can make an impact on the overall gender pay gap by ensuring fair pay within their organizations. Now, question, are you being paid fairly? Are you sure? If you're not sure and you want to find out, I can definitely assist you with that. To set up a call to find out how I can show you how to close your pay gap and determine if we are a good fit, message me. Go to gwendolynjtucker.com and click on contact. A link is in the description below. You can reach out to me there. Women, you work hard for your money. I can show you how to take home all of it. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of my podcast. Plan to join me next time for the big reveal part 2. If you are a woman in the workplace or know and love one who is, you won't want to miss it. Now, if you like what you hear here, please invite a woman in your world to listen into. If you missed a previous episode, please take a listen. I look forward to seeing you here next Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time for the next episode of That the Gender Pay Gap. Until then, please be well.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. Please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow me wherever you get your favorite podcast. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.